just the most highly skilled folks who are in those apprenticeships and teaching there. And so one of the things we must do, understanding that and understanding the nature of that part of our educational system, is let's eliminate degree requirements while increasing skills development. And let's start with something I can do as president, was ensure that we do that for the 500,000 of federal jobs that are within our ability to make it so. Showing what is possible and then challenging the private sector to make a similar commitment to emphasizing skills and not just degrees. And we will reform our tax laws to make it easier for businesses to let workers share in their company's success. And I will challenge the private sector to do more, to lift up workers through equity, profits, and benefits, so more people can share in America's success and prosperity. And not only must we build the industries of the future in America, we must also build them faster. You know, there's a time for patience, and there's a time for impatience. That's not in Ecclesiastics, but just went off script for a minute, Mayor. But the simple truth is, in America, it takes too long and it costs too much to build. Whether it's a new housing development, a new factory, or a new bridge, projects take too long to go from concept to reality. It happens in blue states, it happens in red states, and it's a national problem. And I will tell you this, China is not moving slowly. They're not. And we can't afford to either. If we are to compete, we can't afford to either. As president, if things are not moving quickly, I will demand to know why, and I will act. I will work with Congress, workers and businesses, cities and states, community groups and local leaders to reform permitting, to cut red tape, and get things moving faster. Because, look, as I said, patience may be a virtue, but not when it comes to job creation or America's competitiveness. Many of you know, the Empire State Building, you know how long it took to build that? 1 year. The Pentagon, you know how long that took? 16 months. No one can tell me we can't build quickly in our country. I've got empirical evidence. Now look, my opponent, Donald Trump, well, he makes big promises on manufacturing. Just yesterday, he went out and promised to bring back manufacturing jobs. And if that sounds familiar, it should. In 2016, he went out and made that very same promise about the Carrier plant in Indianapolis. You'll remember, Carrier then offshored hundreds of jobs to Mexico under his watch. And it wasn't just there. On Trump's watch, offshoring went up and manufacturing jobs went down across our country and across our economy. All told, almost 200,000 manufacturing jobs were lost during his presidency, starting before the pandemic hit, making Trump one of the biggest losers ever on manufacturing. Donald Trump also talked a big game on our trade deficit with China. But it is far lower under our watch than any year of his administration. While he constantly got played by China, I will never hesitate to take swift and strong measures when China undermines the rules of the road at the expense of our workers, our communities, and our companies, whether it's flooding the market with steel, inferior, or at all, unfairly subsidizing shipbuilding, or hurting our small businesses with counterfeits. Recall, Donald Trump actually shipped advanced semiconductor chips to China, which helps them upgrade their military. Understand the impact of these so-called policies that really are not about a plan for strengthening our prosperity or our security. I will never sell out America to our competitors or adversaries. Never. Never. And I will always make sure we have the strongest economy and the most lethal fighting force anywhere in the world. So at this pivotal moment, we have an extraordinary opportunity to chart a new way forward, one that positions the United States of America and all of us who are blessed to call this home for success and prosperity in the 21st century. You know, there's an old saying that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Well, that is the story of the Steel City. That is the story of the Steel City. The city that helped build the middle class, birth America's labor movement, and power the rise of American manufacturing. And the city where Alan Newell and Herbert Simon launched the first AI research hub at Carnegie Mellon. And created entirely new fields like machine learning. And Carnegie Mellon is now home to the largest university robotics center in America. So the proud heritage of Pittsburgh, I so strongly believe, reveals the character of our nation. A nation that harnesses the ambitions, the dreams, and the aspirations of our people. Seizes the opportunities before us because we see them, because we believe in them, and then invents the future. That is what we have always done. And that is what we must now do. And I know we will. I thank you all for inviting me. May God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America.
Hi there, everyone. It's a little after 4 p.m. in New York. You've been listening to Vice President Kamala Harris back on the campaign trail, delivering a rousing speech, laying out her plans for the economy, contrasting them to Donald Trump's record on the economy, something sure to elicit a quick response from him. She called him, quote, the biggest loser ever on manufacturing. Speaking in Pittsburgh, Vice President Harris making the case for a set of policies designed to lift up the middle class, aligning herself with America's workers, America's unions. She described herself in the context of her values and how she approaches these issues, calling herself a pragmatist and a capitalist, not driven by ideology. Her next stop is a sit-down interview with our friend and colleague Stephanie Ruhle for an MSNBC exclusive. We'll have more on that when Stephanie joins us in the next hour of the program. In Pittsburgh with the vice president, one of her most high-profile and effective supporters, a Pittsburgh native, a businessman, an investor who has been sounding the alarm on the chaos Donald Trump would create for our economy should he be reelected. And he's been making a case that Vice President Harris is the moderate in this race, the steady hand on the tiller. And the ex-president, Donald Trump, is the radical, the unpredictable one. The cherry on top in terms of triggering Trump is that he's also a very successful television star in his own right, one of the original sharks on Shark Tank, as well as an owner of the Dallas Mavericks. We're talking, of course, about Mark Cuban, who will join us in a few minutes. To start off, though, let's bring in MSNBC senior political analyst Matthew Dowd. Also joining us, executive director of Republican Voters Against Trump, publisher of The Bulwark, Sarah Longwell's back with us, and Democratic strategist and pollster, MSNBC political analyst Cornell Belcher is here. Cornell, she didn't miss an opportunity to exert her strength and competence on the economy as commander-in-chief. She had that line in there near the end about overseeing the most lethal fighting force in America. And the lines about Donald Trump, they were not the bulk of this speech, but they were sharp, specific, direct, and fact-based.
No, they were. And I think she accomplished something that I've been picking up in data across the country that I think is important, is that, it's still about introducing her and letting voters understand, who she is and who she's fighting for. Like, we as political, long-term political hacks, we know voters aren't sitting around with their notepad going, oh, her point 7 of her 12-point economic plan, I don't agree with because I don't think she can do it. That's not how voters work. I think what she did today was lean into how she's on the side of the American worker, how she believes that American worker is exceptional and is that exceptional spirit that we've got to lean into and tap into, how we've got to award the hard work of the American worker, how we got to look out for the person who built the skyscraper, not so much the person who owns the skyscraper and the people who are cleaning the skyscraper. I think she put herself clearly and soundly on the side of working Americans. And I think any working American who sees excerpts of this speech will see that and understand that and trust her more than they did before hearing the speech.
Matt Dowd, anyone that worked on a campaign with me knows that my favorite movie, as much as I adore every Aaron Sorkin script, is Dave. For the purpose of what she just did. He sits down at the cabinet meeting and says, budget smudge it. And I may or may not have quoted him once or twice in the West Wing. Why can't we take, a couple million from Commerce and give it to Treasury and then take a couple million, and pay for the jobs program? I mean, her point about how long it took to build the Empire State Building, 1 year, how long it took to build the Pentagon, 16 months, and her question, why does it take so long to build things in America? I'm going to fix that. Puts her straight on the side of common sense, fixing things that confound just about all of us.
Yeah, I'm with you also. I love that movie, Dave. I also love when he calls in that his accountant friend into the White House to work it out because he doesn't trust anybody else around to do that in there. I think it's such a powerful thing. These numbers are crazy.
I love that scene. We'll find it.
Yeah.
We'll find it.
Nobody could. Is this legal? Is this legal? How do they get away with this?
This speech had some of that in it. I like that.
It did. It did. I think what's so powerful about this is what she is doing is she's going at a perceived strength of Donald Trump, the economy, and going directly at it and making the perceived strength of Donald Trump a weakness, which in most campaigns people avoid doing because they're worried about talking about